code cleanup, and forgot the code cleanup and removal of unused code or logs. So code scanning or PMD feature will help to review the code automatically and help the developer to follow the best practice before pushing the code to the target environment. So let's talk about some bit of CI/CD terminology like continuous integration. Is that it is actually a practice of automating the integration of code changes from multiple contributor into a single software project. It's a DevOps primary best practice. It allows developers to merge their changes frequently into a central code repository where those code will be built, tested, and then run automatically. It will also detect defects and letting the developer know early. It will have continuous delivery, and this continuous delivery ensure that code will be speedily and safely deployed to the production by manually pushing each changes to a production-like environment. Since each modification is automatically delivered to a staging environment, we'll have the option to deploy the application to production with a single push of a button. It will have continuous deployment, this concept, which is actually next step of continuous delivery. Using continuous deployment, each modification that passes the automated test is deployed to production automatically. If any company or firm don't have any constraints, compliance or regulatory, they can have or implement a goal of continuous deployment in their system. So before dive into the detail, let's talk about some facts why we need DevOps in Salesforce. As we know, Salesforce is a cloud platform. That means it is a lot simpler to add or update features, build application in Salesforce. We don't need an operation team to keep Salesforce application running because Salesforce takes care of that for us. We just need to keep our focus on improving our implementation, the feature for client and make the client happy. And you know, in the software development era, there is a natural tension between need for changes and the need for trust or stability, which means a developer always tries to do the modification according to the client requirement, while the operation team tries to keep the system remain stable so they can optimize the performance and reduce the risk that the change brings. Historically, in the large organization, devs and ops team had a very little encouragement to collaborate with each other. Though the goal for both team is customer satisfaction, for the both team, they focus on quickly delivering feature. For the dev team, they focus on quickly delivering features, bug fixes, whereas the ops team goal might be focusing on maintaining the server uptime and keeping the system risk-free. So this goal conflict leading to finger pointing when things go wrong. This is often described as working as silo. Both have the same objective but don't communicate enough. So development and IT operation teams had been facing these types of situation, and DevOps came to help work them together in a collaborative way. However, the business analyst, tester, security experts, and release manager who collaborate to develop an app must all work together to fulfill the trust while developing innovations. So DevOps focus on closing the gap between creative people and those who can benefit from their work. So deployment in Salesforce. As a Salesforce professional, we used to add, update feature and deploy changes to one work to another work. So right now, what we're using mostly the change set to deploy one component from one work to any other target work. We have option to use the IDX workbench, which is actually industry DX workbench. It was developed by Velocity, and right now, recently Salesforce acquired Velocity and renamed is as a Salesforce Industries, which will be coming up as a Omni Studio bundles. So IDX Workbench is a desktop-based tool. Using that, we can uh, pick, select, and deploy things or component from one work to another. We have Salesforce DX. We can use and build tool by which we can configure all of our changes and deploy to target environment. We also have Industry DX or VBT, Velocity Build tool. This is actually CLI tool. So using these tools, we are right now, currently we are deploying components from one work to another work. So why we use Salesforce DevOps to deploy those changes? So we have some benefits of using DevOps, like it will have shorter deployment cycle, it will give us faster modification, and it will have code scanning or PMD. It will reduce the deployment failures, rollback, and time to recover times. It will improve the communication and collaboration between teams. Also, it will increase efficiencies and it will effective resource utilization. So right now we have many different DevOps tool to use in Salesforce. Among those, Copilot is one of the best, and this is actually not free. This is a very costly tool to use in Salesforce, and Salesforce also have a childhood module for this Copilot. We have Flowsum, which is actually a managed package that can be installed within our Salesforce org. And then we can have GearSet, AutoRabbit. We can implement CI/CD or DevOps using GitLab CI/CD pipeline. Also, we can integrate or you can implement DevOps using GitHub's actions. So all of those are actually not free. It will cost us. So this is why we are here to use the and to discuss about the Salesforce DevOps Center. So it's actually a tool that built upon Salesforce DX, Salesforce CLI, metadata API, and source control. And best of all, we do not need to know anything like Salesforce CLI, DX, or metadata API or source control to use this Salesforce DevOps Center. This is actually implemented by Salesforce and it's a managed package. It is based on GitHub and it has lots of feature and all of those feature is controlled by permission set because the organization that is Salesforce using may have different types of role and this DevOps center have many different types of functionality or feature. So that role using those role and permission set, we can distribute this access. It will have option to create multiple projects where we can set up the pipeline for each and every single project. So talking about roles, I mean, in a Salesforce organization or client organization, we can have developer role, we can have a tech lead role or DevOps center manager role, we can have a tester or UAT role, we can have a release manager role. All of these roles and access or permission will be controlled by the permission set. So let's talk about some features of Salesforce DevOps Center. Among these, we can have a work item. So work item is capturing a logical unit of work such as user story, task, or bug. Work items are organized by project. It defines the requirements for the change to be made and tracks the associated metadata source files through the release lifecycle. It has the conflict management feature where it identifies the work items that have conflict with other work items in the pipeline and it provides information to help you resolve the conflict. It will have dev environment synchronization feature. I mean, it will detect when a development environment is out of sync. So we can ensure that we are working against the latest source code. And it tells us what's different and enable us to synchronize it to avoid future conflicts. It has activity history to provide increased visibility, auditability, and error tracking. It will also support the ability to delete metadata using metadata API destructive changes functionality and validate only deployment, which enable us to run a validation only deployment and at a later time perform a quick deployment. Before going to live demo, we need to have some key considerations like what will be the feature of change set. Actually, there will be no further enhancement with the change set. There are no immediate plan to retire the change set, but in the future, we may see the retirement of change set like uh, we see process builder or workflow. Actually, time will say what will happen. So to work and install, to work with DevOps Center, we need to install the DevOps Center in our org or environment. So where we can install the DevOps Center? We can install this DevOps Center in our production environment like Enterprise Edition, Professional Editions, or Unlimited Edition. We can install this DevOps Center in our Developer Edition org, Scratch orgs, or any partner portal orgs. We cannot install this in any sandbox, but we can install this in any childhood playground. So supported version control systems is actually to implement the DevOps. The version control system is mandatory. Currently, Salesforce is using GitHub, but it will have option to integrate with Bitbucket, Azure, DevOps, or GitLabs. The compatibility. So DevOps Center will not be able to see in the classic, but you can see this in our Lightning environment. So how it will work compared to any other existing CI/CD tools. Currently, the DevOps tool or DevOps Center will be working alongside with other existing CI/CD tools that we are using. And most important thing is it is free and backed by Salesforce. So now it's time to install and configure the DevOps Center in our org. So to installing or configuring the DevOps Center, we need to enable the Dev Hub. We need to enable source checking. Then after enabling the source checking, we need to refresh all of our sandboxes from the org to make their source checking ready. Then we need to enable the DevOps Center and accept licenses. We'll do this all of these steps in our actual environment. So let's go to our uh, one of our org. This is actually my developer org. This is fresh and new. So we'll install DevOps Center. So first of all, we need to enable the Dev Hub. I mean, from the search or from the setup, we need to we can search for Dev. Then we'll have Dev Hub, and then first of all, we need to enable the Dev Hub. Let's enable it. It's enabled. Then we need to enable the source checking in developer and developer push sandboxes. Let's enable it as well.
Hey, Yusuf. So,
Yeah,
are you showing from org, Salesforce org?
yeah. This is actually Salesforce developer org.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, your slide screen is being shared. We can't see that.
Sorry,
See
sorry.
the org.
Yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Let's share again.
Sure.
And, can you see my screen, right?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
Not yet. Oh, it didn't come yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me try again. Window. Enter screen share. You cannot access your screen. Check your system setting. Wow. Okay. Let me actually. I need to share my window. Can you see now?
Yeah, yeah. I can
Yeah.
see. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, this is actually my developer org. So in the setup, we can search for dev. It will give us option to dev hub. Then we will need to enable this dev hub, enable dev hub by clicking this checkbox or toggle. Then we will enable source checking in developer and developer push sandbox. I already enabled it. Then we need to go to DevOps Center, and then we'll enable DevOps Center. Right now it is disabled, so we'll enable it. And this is the some terms and condition we'll need to accept. So it's enabled. Now we will install the package. So install this package, we just click this install package. It will take us to the package installation page. Yeah. So I will install for admin only. Yes, continue. It will take a little bit of time, but not that much. So we'll wait. So while installing, let me share my another screen. Window Dex. So after installing, we need to give some permission. It has 5 different types of permission in the DevOps Center. One is the DevOps Center. And this permission set we need to be assigned to all of our DevOps users. I mean, they can be a developer or admin or anyone who needs to use the DevOps Center. We have another permission set like DevOps Center Manager. So this permission set needs to be assigned to any team manager or project manager who will be managing the DevOps Center or creating the project environment or work item or users. Then we have another permission set like DevOps Center Release Manager. This will be assigned to a release manager who will actually promoting these changes from one work to another. And we have some other permission set. This will be actually used internally. I mean, for internal use by the app. So let's go back to our other environment. Yeah, looks like it's done. So it will show us the install package in here. Uh, let's refresh it again. Yeah. So the package is installed. So after the installation, we need to go to the package. We need to actually give a one permission set. Yeah. Sorry, not this one. So after installing, we need to give the user permission. Permission. I mean, let's go to the user. The user will be me because I will be in this dev org. I will have only one user. So we need to give the permission to the DevOps Center permission set. And one important thing is that actually in DevOps, the system can have multiple development or development environment. So that means it will have multiple dev team and multiple dev environment. So as this is a development org, I mean, it will not have any sandboxes. So this is why I will move to my another partner portal account where we have some different types of sandboxes, and I already installed those DevOps Center application in here. So after installing, we need to just enable the permission set. Let's go to this permission set. I mean, this is my old developer org. If I go to this permission set, and we just need to give the permission of DevOps Center. Ultimately, as this will be a single user, so this is why we need to give all of those user permission to here. These we also have two others, and save. But to create and create pipeline and show the actual development for different teams, we need to use uh, another partner portal organization, or where I already installed. So after actually installing this, we need to create a connected app. Is actually app manager. We need to go to connected app. I'm using my old, the fresh development organization. Then we will create a connected app. Let's give it a name, the connected app. And I'm using my email address in the connected app. Let's use an icon for this and the start URL and save. And then we need to go to manage permission set, and we just need to give this permission set to this connected app. So we are done with this connected app, DevOps Center, configurations. From now on, we just can go to, this is our developer work, we just can go to this URL to use this DevOps Center. So this is our DevOps Center. First of all, we need to configure a project. A project means a configuration where it will have multiple sandboxes. I mean, some sandbox will be developed for developers, some for testers, and finally we'll have the production sandboxes. So first and foremost, initial step is to create a project. So let's load this up. And before creating project, we need to assign a GitHub repository. So let's wait for a second. It will. Yeah. The page is loaded. Now we'll create a new project. And before creating a project, we need to connect with GitHub repository. So let's connect to GitHub. So as I already connected my GitHub account with Salesforce, this is why it is taking my already connected GitHub account. So now let's create new project. Let me create a new project like live DevOps demo. This is my repository owner. We'll create a project. So after creating a project, we need to set up the release environment, which will be actually a production environment for us. Let me connect to the release environment. And this will be production work. So actually, I have same configurations in our partner portal account, because in there we have lots of sandboxes to configure. So I created one project here, like this one, Salesforce DevOps Live. In here, I connected the release environment. That is actually production environment. After connecting the release environment, we have these types of stage or pipeline to configure. First of all, we need to connect or set development environment. Right now, in this pipeline, I already added two different environment. I mean, all of those are sandboxes. This one is like DevOps, Dev one, and the one is Dev two. This is first step, and then we have another pipeline in the stage, which is named like a test. In here, we need to set up another environment, and we have another environment like stage. This will be another environment for this will be actually before deploying any changes to production. This all code will be deployed to this stage, and the last one will be the final one. I mean the production one. This is how the pipeline will be configured. So as I already configured the stage, so let me connect with the configure the stage. So let me connect the test environment. So let's connect to test environment and log in. This will be actually sandbox. Let me connect to test. It should not take that much of time. As it's loading. Let's refresh the page. What's wrong with that? Okay, let me refresh the. Okay, looks like yeah. It's connected. Then basically logic is the final stage is the production. So it will configure and connecting with the GitHub repository, and the final one is the main branch. Then in the left we will have the stage pipeline. In here all of the changes will be marched to the stage branch. We created a branch. Actually, whenever we create or configure a branch, it will create a branch name like this. So let me show you. Like if I go to edit, it will give us option to enter a name. So I already entered a branch name like stage. So it's created a branch like stage that will be a clone of main. Then we need to specify another branch for this test stage or in this pipeline. So let me specify a branch for this as well. Let me give it a name like test. So far to set up the pipeline, we are all done. We suppose we have two different team. One will be using dev one sandbox, another one will be using dev two sandbox. Then after modifying or doing changes, they will be deploying those changes to this stage, which is actually test org. In here all of the user or developer will do some unit testing in this org. So after all of those tests done, then they will be moving those changes to the stage org, and finally it will deploy all of those things to the production log. So right now our configuration is done and it is ready to activate. So let me activate it. So our pipeline configuration is done. Now the work item. So work item actually is a logical piece of work that needs to be create. I mean, whenever any new requirements is will we the tech lead or the business analyst will create a new work item and assign this work item to any specific developer. So let's say as I am actually a single user, so I will be working as a tech lead or release manager or developer. So first, let's see first of all, I need to implement some feature like I need to create a custom object, and so I will give the detailed description in the description field. I can create a subject, give a subject, and I can assign this task to specific user. So let me give it to me as well. Let's create a work item. So whenever new change request is coming or new work request is coming, it will create a work. The tech lead will create a work item and it will assign to a specific developer. And then he's done. So let's talk it to me as a developer. So as this is assigned to me, so I'll be working on this. So let me, so I'll be logging to DevOps Center. I will be working on this. First of all, I can see all of the detailed work, and then to start working, I need to select specific development org. So let's say I will be doing these changes in a dev one environment. So I'll be selecting this dev one environment and let's proceed. It will actually create a feature branch, and the feature branch will be created same as the work item name. So this is the work item name. If I click this URL, then it will take us to the actual feature branch. This is actually the GitHub repository that is created while we configure the pipeline, and it's already created this feature branch. So let's see. According to this change set, let's go to this environment. We can directly go to this environment by clicking this link here. If I click this, it will take us to the dev one environment. So according to the requirement, it will we need to create some custom field. So this is our dev one environment. So let's create some custom field here. I already created first name. Let's create a last name field. Okay, let me refresh this. Let me create a last name field. $200. So then let's let's make it final, and then let me create let me create a validation rule on this. So my this is the custom object. I am going to create new validation rule here. New validation rule. So let me use this formula, and this is the error message. Save it. So I created this attending information custom object with some fields and the validation rule. So according to the requirement, I am done to implement the feature or changes. Then I will go back to the DevOps Center. I will click this pull changes. This is my work item. I will click this pull changes. It will pull all of those changes that I am done. So it's pull all of those changes in this org. So I'll just select only those, suppose attend information. Let's click again. Yeah. We have this field, we can select individual component, validation rule, we can first name, last name. This is the custom object. So let's select only this few custom object and fields and the validation rule and the page layout. Let's see the page layout we have. So after selecting those manual changes, or if I don't see any of my changes, then I will have option to select or add my changes manually, like any other Apex classes or any custom object or anything. So let's see, let's just add these changes and then we'll give it a commit message. Let's commit changes. Whenever we click this commit changes, it will actually commit these changes to GitHub repository, and it will show the status in here. Commit done, and if you go to this URL, we will have option to see all of those changes that we made. So then, suppose I am done with the changes, the tech lead will come up and see what is the changes. After confirming my changes, I will create the create review. It will create actually change request under the hood in the GitHub repository. The developer don't have to think about this GitHub repository. So whenever developer is done with the changes, he will uh, he will uh, tell the tech lead to review those changes. The tech lead will come up and tech lead can go to this view change request, and tech lead will be able to see all of those changes that he made. And in a GitHub repository, we have all of these options to change and all of these changes in the it will also show the color coded as well. So after reviewing the changes, the tech lead will make this ready to promote. So whenever the tech lead is make this as a ready to promote, it will be unchangeable. That means now the release manager will come up in this scenario, and if you go to the pipeline, I mean whenever the release manager come and log into this system DevOps center, he will see in the pipeline that one change is waiting to promote. So he will just select the changes and promote selected. It will deploy these changes. It will give us option to run the test class test options. While deploying changes, we'll have multiple option to run test class or test options. So right now I am selecting as a default. Let me select as promote. So whenever we hit promote, it will actually merge the feature branch to the test branch, and after merging, it will remove the feature branch, and then it will also moving those components to the test org. Yeah, so the promotion is done so far, and to test this, we can go to the environment, open environment. The deployment is done, as well as the merge to the test branch done as well. So if we go to the, I mean, object manager, it will show us the attend information custom object. Earlier it was not there. Yeah, this is the attend information with all of these fields. So suppose next time the tech lead come up and with some new type of requirement to create a suppose a new flow or email alert, then he can create a new work item and give it a name. and assign to a suppose another user or developer. And let's see this task will be assigned to another team like who another dev team, and they will work with another dev or environment like dev 2. So in this case, one thing is that I already promoted one changes to from dev 1 to test sandbox. But as right now I am trying to create another change set or another work item to deploy some changes or implement some changes. So this is why as one change is already deployed to test, I mean uh, the other target environment. So this is why it gives us option to sync the dev to environment. Without syncing this dev to, I cannot work. So if I just don't sync, it will not give us any option to work. But to sync, we need to go to dev environment, go to environment hub. Then this one is up to date, but dev 2 is not up to date. So we can see all of those changes that we have in the dev 1 and versus dev 2. We can see this, and we can also click this sync button. It will sync all of those changes to in this dev 2 as well. If we go to the dev 2 environment, we'll see the attendee information custom object as well. Yeah. Now we can go to work item, then select dev 2, proceed, and according to the new requirement, it will need some. It will create flow, email alert, and template. I already created those template, email alert, and flows in my dev 2 environment. So this is my classic email template. This is my email alert, and this is actually um, flow that is created in the dev 2 environment. So let's add it all of this. Suppose the team assigned this task to me, and I'll be working in dev 2, and I already worked on it. Then after working this, I'll be going to this work item. I'll pull changes. So this is my flow. This email template. This is a workflow that I created. So I just hit commit, give it a message like flow message, commit changes. So whenever I am done with my changes, I will be committing. After committing, so I'll have option to create review. I mean, if I am done with my changes, then I will just create review. Then tech lead will come up and make these changes ready to promote after verifying the changes. So if the tech lead make this ready to promote, the status will be ready to promote, and then the release manager come to the pipeline. He will see option to make this change to promote. So he just select the work item and promote selected. As I don't have any class test classes, so I'll just hit promote with default settings. So all of these changes is now deployed in the test org as well, along with the earlier test. So now we'll have option to test this or promote this to both items into stage org. We'll just select individual or both, and then promote selected. It will merge and take both of this item to the stage or stage environment. Let me go to the stage. This is the stage, and if I go to custom object, looks like already deployed. Pushing to into stage. Yeah, the promotion is done. So if I go to the stage environment, we have the attendee information with the first name, last name, last name, and then if I have time, if you can go to flow, it will we will have the flow that is created by as well. Yeah, this is the flow that I created in the sandbox. So now, as I created two different components for two different teams, suppose we have another development team that will be using outside of my development DevOps center, they will be working in Visual Studio Code, and they need to implement some types of, I mean, LWC component or custom Apex classes. So in that requirement, suppose the tech lead created new task for creating Apex class and assign this task to the user in other dev team. So suppose in this case, we have another team who is actually working outside of DevOps center. I mean, using some GitHub repository directly without mentioning any DevOps, any development org. Then it will create a new. We need to use this option to create or work with this work item. So in this case, we need to, and for this case, suppose this is the actual repository. And let me, oh, I think you cannot see my screen here for this one. Yeah, yeah. Sorry for this. Let me change this to environment as well. We don't have the environment. Let me add another environment. Suppose we have another development environment. Let me add a third environment here. I'll be quickly adding another environment, dev 3. Yes. So I think we are almost out of our time. So we have option to modify and create new Apex class and I mean create new LWC component and deploy those LWC component and test class to using these systems. So as we have till we are out of time, so that's today I'll not show this. So let's move this stage component to the production. Just promote as work item bundle. If I just click this option, then we will need to give it a version name, version 1. It will promote all of those changes to production. And also it will merge all of those changes to the main branch. First off, whenever we create new work item and promote these things to stage, it will while creating work item, it will create feature branch with the work item name. Then while moving to test, it will mark the feature branch to the test. Whenever we move these changes to the test to stage, it will mark the test content to the stage in the GitHub repository. And whenever we move this stage to production, it will merge all of those changes of a stage branch to the main branch. Also, it will transfer or deploy all of those changes to the production as well. So production deployment is done. So if I go to the production, let me go to this production open environment. It will take us to the actual production environment. So this is the production. Then if I go to setup, also let me show you the deployment status, because all of those are deployed as well. So if I go to deployment status, so this is the changes that is deployed by the Salesforce DevOps centers. And if I go to the setup, and then we have the custom. This is the attend information custom object that we create in dev, then move to stage, test, and production. So far, this is how it will work, and this is actually very easy to install and easy to use for any developer or any tech person within Salesforce. So let me go to. Actually, I have some other things to show, but due to time constraint, I cannot show you today. So let me go to my slide. And in my given demo, we created one pipeline where we have three different types of dev. We have two, then stage, and then test and production. We can have any another types of project or hotfix scenario where suppose company needs to fix some immediate problem in one org, then deploy these things to bundle or test org, then in the production. So in this type of scenario, we can create a project with one dev org and then one bundle or test org and then production. We can implement these types of scenario as well. And actually, this is the actual process how we can create work item and then build, commit, deploy, and promote to production. So this is what we have so far today for DevOps Center. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Okay, so do we have any questions? Anyone has any questions? You can ask on the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
So yeah, I have one question, Mehdi.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, actually, thank you to Yusuf. This is very new actually item to me. So I think everybody enjoyed this one. My question is, so this work item creation is mandatory, right, Yusuf?
Yes, this is the first step
But
to.
usually we receive the work item from business people or actually top management with some tools like Jira or Trello or Asana. Okay, so is there
Yeah,
any opportunity to actually integrate those tools here?
yeah. Ultimately, Salesforce will integrate those third-party tools with work item, but currently they are come up with this idea and work item. So whenever any new idea or feature comes, they will create a work item and they will assign this work item to any other developer or user. User means developer, and the developer will get notified and start working based on this work item.
Okay, so currently we don't have any integration
So
process
at
for
this
that.
moment, basically, there is no integration. Right?
Yes, you are right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. So anyone else?
Before one more thing, actually, I have some other setup or system ready as well to show you. To create new Apex class or LWC component and using GitHub repository, because in DevOps center we can use, or we can work directly in any work, or we can work as a hybrid scenario. Like suppose some teams can work directly with GitHub repository using VS Code. So in that scenario, I also did some preparation, and that was ready, but due to some time constraint, I was not able to show you. But this is also possible to directly work with the corresponding GitHub repository, update feature, and do the commit, push, and then create merge request, and all of these things will be seamlessly, automatically within the Salesforce DevOps Center.
Yusuf, this is Sajjad here.
Yeah.
I have a simple question. I mean, just if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
So
problem.
the thing is, you said the metadata changes.
Yeah.
Push to a different orgs. So can we see that these metadatas inside the DevOps centers, or we need to go to the GitHub only directly? You understand?
Yeah. Whenever you do any change in the org, it will detect the changes. It will show us the change file or metadata in the work item. Then we'll have option to see, option to go to GitHub repository, or you can go to directly to the environment or sandbox
Yeah,
to
in the
see the
DevOps
changes.
centers, there is no option there to see those metadata changes currently.
We'll have the file name.
Okay, okay.
We'll have the file. If you want to see the actual content, then you have to go to the repository, or you can go to the sandbox or the environment.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Munna this side.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I wanted to understand this DevOps center will be installed in our production org, right?
Yeah.
So if we are creating any work item, how will we assign to the users? Like those users has to be there in all the sandboxes like UAT, DevOps. How does it work? Like how we will assign the users and how like they will be created and all?
Suppose you have 10 users or 10 developer in production, and you install this DevOps center in your production system. So whenever you create new work item, you will assign this work item to that user. So that user must have to have access to the production work. He will get notified. He will see the work item, and he will see details, and he will start working. But when start working, he will work on the specific sandbox, because in the pipeline we will have option to add sandbox or development environment. Suppose the system admin or tech lead added 4 different sandbox or development environment in the pipeline. So that
Okay.
specific user will select any of the development environment to work with. But
So that user has to be there in the dev box also.
yeah, of course, if I have the production access, then I will have the sandbox access as well, right?
Sandbox. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Cool. Thanks. Yusuf.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Munna, for your question. So anybody else? Do we have any more questions? Okay, so if not, we'll be moving to the quiz session. But before that, I would like to thank Yusuf Jaman for his enlightening session on Salesforce DevOps Center. His deep expertise and passion for the subject were evident throughout his talk, providing us with invaluable insights and best practices. We're truly grateful for his time, dedication, and the knowledge he shared, which will
Thank you.
undoubtedly benefit our organizations in the future. Thank you, Yusuf Jaman.
Thank you again. Thank you all.